Here we are for another week in our series called Not Forgotten as we study the book of Job. And I'm sitting here outside the church in the middle of our field. And I did this for a very specific reason. I want you to be immersed like I am in nature. Nature is an important thing that God has given us to remind us that we are never forgotten. And I'm going to explain why. See, so far we've studied Job, and Job had a really, really bad beginning, didn't he? He lost everything he had. He's lost his health. God has started to try to bring him back in and comfort him using his friends, but his friends even bring up some things that are tough for him to handle and even blaming him for some of the things that have happened in his life. So we come to the point where everybody comes to when there's a trial or a tribulation in our life. We come to the point in Job's life where he asks a question. He asks the why. That's what tonight is about. Why? Why, God, do you allow things that just seem like atrocities to happen? How could a family who's prayed for a baby so long then finally get pregnant miscarry? How can these awful kinds of things happen? How can war happen and innocent people can get hurt or destroyed? How do these things happen? Why, God? Why? And that's the questions we want to know. When we don't understand, when things don't make sense to us, we want to know why. And that's where Job is. Job asks a lot of why questions. His first one in Job 3, he says, why didn't I just die at birth? Why did God even make me? What was his purpose in even making me part of his kingdom? He asks, I wish God would just get this over with and crush me in chapter 6, verse 9. In this whole dialogue, Job is asking why and also saying, God, I don't get it. Why not just destroy me altogether? Why let me suffer this way? He asked this in Job 9, verse 12. He says, how do I ask God what he is doing? How do I ask God even come before the Almighty and say, God, why are you doing this? How is it possible that you're able to do this? In Job 23:13, he says this, who tells God what to do? Job starts to think through it as he's talking with his friends, as he's thinking about God. He starts to think, how can I even come close to telling God what to do and what he should do? But at the same time, I don't get it. And then he asks the big question. The big question I think we've all asked in our faith. Where is God in all of this? Where is he? How can you say he has not forgotten me when I'm going through something so big and something so dramatic in my life? And yet he says he cares for us. He thinks about us. He comforts us. He helps us and delivers us. And then at the same time, he's allowing these things to go on, to happen. Well, that's where we are tonight. But briefly, why is there suffering? Why is there suffering? There's always the natural answers. It's the consequences of sin, and there's a sinful nature, so it's cursed the earth, and it's a means of loving correction, and it's God's test, or even that God can use us as a godly example of our faith. And all those are really great answers and great things to think about and talk about. Yes, it's true. We do live in a sinful world. There is a sinful nature. There are things going on with us, but still, why? That's the question. Why? We just don't get it. And my favorite part about Job is that God answers Job. God shows up. He says this in Job 38. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. And he said, who is this that darkens counsels by words without knowledge? Dressed for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. One of the things I want you to do in your questioning time is to look at chapters 38 and 39 and count up how many different questions God asked Job. That'll be a good experiment for you, a good thing to see all these questions that God asked Job. But here, let me give you a few of them. He says, where were you when I created the earth? He says, can you send out lightning and tell it where to go? Who provides food for the ravens? Do you command the eagle to soar and to nest high up in the mountain cliffs? Is that you who's designed all of that? Here's how God answers. Did you catch them? As you look through all of them, did you catch how God answers? He answers with nature. He answers with his creation. He shows us his majesty with what he made. And he makes Job realize exactly how he fits in the scheme of all that God has made and all that God has done. I want to share this verse with you and leave you with this verse. It says this in Isaiah 55, 8 and 9. It says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." God again uses nature. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. I want you to check out this video that I'm going to show you now. And it's of a different pastor. His name is Louis Giglio, but he makes a really great point about how amazing and how spectacular our God is, and in his creation, what he created. And it kind of helps us understand where we fit in this world. And so is it okay to ask and question God and say why? Absolutely. We can talk to God. That's the kind of relationship he wants us to have with him. And that's an okay thing. But at the same hand, we have to understand how big, how much full of majesty, and how awesome our God truly is. And when we get that perspective, it starts to help us to understand and trust our God and all that he's done.
We are here tonight to worship a huge, massive God of grace and glory. The story opens like this, in case you forgot. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and he said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And that was a phenomenal moment when that happened, because light came out of the mouth of God, traveling 186,000 miles a second. There's an image of it for you, by the way. It's a little more fierce than we often think. It's 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface, but what I want you to see about it is how big it is. It's 93 million miles away, so when you're looking up in the sky, it's pretty good pace out there. By the way, light traveling 186,000 miles a second, it's only taken 8 minutes to cover that 93 million mile journey to touch your skin here in Atlanta, Georgia. But what I want you to see is the size of it. It's like 1,000,000 times the size of the earth, and that matters to us tonight when you hear what the psalmist said. Listen to his words. "By the word of the Lord," this is Psalm 33, "the heavens were made." In other words, God didn't lift a finger when he made the universe. By the word of the Lord, the heavens were made. But he goes on to say, "their starry hosts by the breath of his mouth." So we're looking at something so intense that we don't want to get any closer than 93 million miles away, which is what we are right now. And then we read that God just breathes out stars. It's crazy to think about it. 1,000,000 times the size of the earth. So here's a little perspective that sort of changed my life. If the earth were the size of a golf ball, okay, the sun would be 15 feet in diameter. Okay, that didn't seem to move anybody either, so let me try it a different way. Let me just try it just a different way. I thought I might need this, so I brought a golf ball, okay? So all through the evening, this is gonna represent Earth, all right? So this is where we are. I need everybody in the building to look as closely as you can and find yourself, okay? And when you found yourself, I want you to nod your head so that I know you've located you on the earth, okay? You're nodding your head? Okay, you found yourself. If the earth were a golf ball, the sun would be 15 feet in diameter. That's not 15 feet in diameter. Can we blow that up just a hair, maybe give them 15 feet in diameter? So here's a little perspective for you, okay? Is this working for anybody? Here we are on the earth, and that's the sun. It's so big you could put 960,000 Earths inside the sun. So if the earth were a golf ball and the sun were 15 feet in diameter, you could put 960,000 golf balls inside that 15-foot in diameter sun. That's enough golf balls, by the way, because I know that seems like a big number, to fill a school bus with golf balls could fit inside the 15-foot in diameter sun. It's a massive star, and it's one of hundreds of billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy, our cul-de-sac in the neighborhood called the cosmos that God has made. I love science, and science has just brought us the largest star they found. It's called, are you ready for this? Canis Majoris. Now, I'm no linguist, but that's a cool name for the biggest star we've found so far. I think that means the big dog star, and that's exactly what it is. I bring it to you as a little bitty purple, glow just to the right of center there. But Canis Majoris, oh wow. If the earth were a golf ball, Canis Majoris would be the height of Mount Everest. Almost 6 miles above sea level, the highest point on the planet, and I just dare you to get up there and unzip the parka and pull out your golf ball. You could fit 7 quadrillion Earths inside Canis Majoris. That's enough Earths, if the Earth were a golf ball, to cover the entire state of Texas in golf balls, 22 inches deep. You see the one you're on? Maybe this will help a little bit more. This absolutely blew my mind. Just a little journey through our solar system. Everyone knows our planets and sort of how we fit in to the story here. You see really quickly that we're not even the biggest deal in our own solar system, but as Earth comes by, you have to know tonight that we are living on a privileged planet. Anyone would tell you we're living at one of the most special places, if not the most special place in all of creation. But Neptune comes by and Saturn and then Jupiter, and you're like, okay, we're not all that big, even in our own little cul-de-sac. I just noticed the blue dot fading away is not the Earth. That's Neptune. The Earth has gotten too small to see anymore. Sirius comes by. Little plug for satellite radio. Not the biggest star, but the brightest star that we have found so far. Pollux, which we didn't mention. Arcturus. Such a beautifully named one, Regal. But then the one that messed me up. Our third star, Musifi. Musifi's cousin, W. Cephei. Canis Majoris. And do you know that you couldn't come up here right now with a Sharpie and make a mark on the screen that would approximate the size of our sun? You couldn't even do it. I mean, when you look at these in their relative size, we just have to put a little arrow over there that says, if you could put the sun on here, which you can't, it would go somewhere about here. And can you hang on that for me? And when you see this, I don't know what happens to you, but I'll tell you what happens to me. A shrinking feeling comes over me, and it's not a bad shrinking feeling, it's a good shrinking feeling. Because sin, it has a way of shrinking God down in our minds and puffing us up in our own estimation. But just a glance into the universe that God has made resizes everything in a heartbeat. And you realize tonight we are worshiping an unrivaled, uncontested God of all kind of might and power and glory and awe, there's none like him anywhere in all of creation tonight.
Isn't that video amazing? Man, it really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Well, take your time now to go in and answer these questions and have your question and answer time. And I'll pray that God really uses this in your heart to help you understand where you relate with him and all that he wants to do for you. We serve and love an amazing big God. We don't always understand and get what he's doing, but we can trust him because he's majestic. Lord, be with these adults now as they go into their time of discussion, and help them to learn and grow deeper in love with you as they explore your word. In Jesus' name I pray. God bless you.